This is the Relationship Capital Podcast, where we talk to the top thought leaders and practitioners from around the world about how to grow your most valuable resource, your network. I'm your host, Denice Chenault, and Relationship Capital is brought to you by your friends at Contact Mapping, the #1 app for building your network. Hello, everybody. It's Adrian from Contact Mapping, back with the Relationship Capital Podcast. And today's episode is one that I have especially been looking forward to, because my guest today is not only somebody who is one of the most admired women in network marketing and really one of the most admired people in network marketing, but she is also my stepmom. So Denice Chenault, welcome. Bonus, exactly. She had to say yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, this is so fun. So Denice, I just want to give a little background on her for anybody who is not familiar with her. So Denice and my dad, Tom, are part of the Network Marketing Hall of Fame. They have been in the profession for many years. And what has been so cool is that as they have each gone in their own ways within the profession, one of the things that Denice had an early passion for that she has really applied in a huge way in her network marketing career is a passion for coaching people. And so she has really invested in herself, working with people like Byron Katie and other coaches of coaches to really level up her ability in that space. And so I'm really excited to dig into some of that. We'll talk more about that later in the show, but we always start off with the same question. And so the first question I just want to ask you is, if you're thinking about somebody who is heart-centered, who really wants to use relationships as the center of how to build a business, but they want to do it the right way, what do you think is the #1 thing that they can do to be successful going about it that way?
Well, I think the art of conversation has been lost a little bit, and I think that these tools that we have that can, they have enhanced our lives in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways it's just really getting back to basics, which is the art of conversation and the art of listening and being present and really tuning into someone. And I think that where network marketing gets a bad name is that we don't do that, that it's all about the sale. And, the sale, for me, the sale is a progression of the relationship.
Right.
So really being present and building that relationship and having it unfold organically is so important.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, like you said, there's this natural progression that can happen that I think just starts with seeing somebody and being able to show that presence. And I think that's something that you really do well. And so what would you say, how have you been able to cultivate that ability to really tune into someone that you're having a conversation with and tune out the other distractions that are happening around you?
One of the and I just realized that it's a podcast, so you didn't actually see me hold up my phone.
Well, there's a video version too, so for the YouTube crowd, they will benefit from that. But the smartphone is the thing that she
Yes, I was talking about the smartphone. For me, the art and practice of being present stems from my practice of meditation. And so I have been a meditator for probably about 15 years now. And it's a daily practice for me. And really, people get a little freaked out when you talk about meditation and they go, oh, I can't do that. And, really I can't do it either.
Well said.
It's a mind training, and it's just a practice of being present and being present to your thoughts. And that has really enhanced my ability to be present in conversation.
That's a great connection. And you're so right. I've known you have been a meditator for many, many years. And it wasn't really until 3 or 4 years ago that I even dipped a toe in that water, because it seems so mystified that I was like, I don't know, I can't do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have that sort of story, and what I used to try it out, which was really helpful for me, was Headspace,
Yes.
which many people have heard of. And, there's differing opinions on Headspace or that kind of guided meditation versus other kinds of things. And there's different things work for different people. But I think one of the things Headspace has been remarkable at doing is opening up that world to make it accessible to a very tightly wound, as my father would say, kid like me, who is, who definitely, quieting my mind is so far outside my wheelhouse usually that I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no chance that I could ever do that. And it is really, as much as I don't do it often and I struggle to do it, having something that kind of makes that practice accessible. And I think thinking about how that actually pays dividends in ways beyond just sort of like your personal state, but that it actually applies to something like the art of conversation is something that's motivating for me to go, well, if it's more than just that, then maybe putting in the work, so to speak, or sort of slogging through how bad I am at it to start off with might be worth doing.
It's in Headspace, and I don't have a judgment around what kind of meditation it is. I think anything where you're able to quiet your mind for a period of time, even if it's just 5 minutes, is worth it. And then being able to have the ability to step back from your thoughts and be, being observer of your thoughts is so important. And how we, that what they say, monkey mind, how you realize how you're so not in control of your thoughts.
No, it has really served that purpose of waking me up to how much chatter is really happening. And how, sometimes that's okay. And sometimes that really doesn't serve me. And I've got to go and find some way to pull back out of that sort of a thing and to get my brain to quiet down. And, for me, it's nature tends to be the best way to do that, where just to be able to have sounds that are these background sounds that are beautiful and calming, and to like, I'm going to listen to that and try to put away this kind of running chatter that's happening in my brain.
And whether it's listening, if you're using Headspace and listening to nature, or you're in nature, a walking meditation is just as powerful.
That's really could
Yeah.
And so in a conversation with somebody, as you're engaging, what are some other things that you think can help to guide that conversation in a way that allows you to kind of create this relationship capital, to create these kind of relationships that may or may not eventually build toward a sale, but do so powerfully because of the type of tone that you're setting?
I think anytime you're really able to be present with someone and be in the conversation. Look, I was in a store the other day. I needed to buy some birthday presents, and it was just me and the owner in a small little store in Boulder, and we started talking, and it was amazing how a complete stranger and I were able to build rapport and find this sort of mutual commonality that we had in our lives, that it really struck both of our hearts.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened if I was like in my normal daily, like, got to get in, got to get the, buy this, get out of there. And this is someone who I could see having a relationship with.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know, I don't know how it will unfold. I followed up with her yesterday and I said, it was really great meeting you. We should go have tea. And she said, she texted back, because that's always a little risky. You're like, oh, are they, like a new friend. Yeah. It makes you feel like a 9-year-old. Do they like me?
Yeah.
And she texted back, absolutely. I really loved meeting you. I would love to spend more time with you.
Yeah.
and so we'll see. I don't know enough about her to know what her, where she's at in her life, what her needs are, what's important to her. We connected on a son level.
Yeah.
And because she has 3 kids and I have 3 kids, and so and so when you're not agenda driven and you just let the relationship and conversation unfold organically, and you are when I am more open to be vulnerable and risky and heart-centered, then it really just, it's amazing how it unfolds magically.
Yeah. Well, and it's, we're in a funny time right now as we're still in the middle of this pandemic. And so, I think it changes things a bit, but I think these principles still apply that, you could have spent 3 minutes in that store, or you could have spent 10 minutes in that store. But those additional, the additional 7 minutes you spent was not a ton of time invested, and yet it yielded this relationship. And, if you're thinking about how to, how do I meet more people? How do I meet more quality people? You probably are passing right by quality people all the time, and you're just in too much of a hurry. And if you can slow down and notice something about somebody, and you're going to be able to tell if they are open or not to slow down a little bit and have a conversation or not. But a lot of people are, and it's you become this refreshing, like, man, nobody ever stops and talks to me, or whatever that is. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I think I had gone for a run, and I had sat down at the park just to kind of spend a little bit of time on my own. And this woman was, walking on the path in the park, and she stopped and talked to me. And it was clear that, I think she was just like, I've been locked in my house. Like, I got to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But she was so nice, and it led to, again, this really nice conversation. And I think it could have been easy. It was easy for me. I was doing something else. I was actually thinking about something important. It would have been easy for me to kind of put up that please go away kind of energy.
Absolutely.
And I just went, this lady, she had a big smile on her face, and I was like, I got nowhere to be. Like, I'm going to talk. And because I did this, you develop. And so I think it's those moments where if we can get out of our own way, that the universe or God or whatever is putting these people in your path all the time, where there's these great conversations and potential relationships and potential partnerships and customers and all these things. And, you're running past them going, where are my leads? They're going, and well, you just ran past 30 of them. Like, why are you doing that?
No, it's true. And I think that one of the blessings of this pandemic is that people are much more introspective right now. Mm-hmm. We really realize the riches in our life come from relationship.
Yeah.
And it really, when you can't be with people, when you can't be with your loved ones, it forces you to realize, what's really important in my life. And I think that people right now are yearning for connection in a way that we haven't before.
Right.
And we're really looking at what really is important in my life. How do I want my life to look? And when we lay our head on the pillow at night, we realize that the most special time in our day is that 3-minute conversation that we have with the lady on the park bench.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And so one other question, we talked a little bit about this the other day, and so I just thought it'd be cool to bring this into the conversation. Sometimes I think when we're first getting going in a network marketing career, or in, a real estate practice, or whatever it is, the reason we're doing this, it's like, I got to make this thing work now. And, a lot of times these jobs,
I got to pay the rent.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not salary jobs. You get paid based on what you produce.
Sure.
And so you're in this mindset of like, man, I got to make this work in a hurry. Talk a little bit about how you can reconcile that place of real need with these principles that are maybe playing a little bit longer game. But how can you fit those two things together?
And it really is, it's tricky because, you don't want to have an agenda. because people can smell that from a mile away.
Right.
And that's the feeling we get when we're, being pursued. That's why we hate going car shopping or whatever, that icky feeling, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to be that person. But yeah, you need to make a sale in order to create commissions, right? And so one of the things it really is all about relationship, and the more people you get into the funnel, and I don't want to say you're cycling through them, but look, if you only have one prospect out there and you're tracking that prospect, they're going to feel that energetically.
Yes.
But if you have 50 people in the funnel,
right,
and you're sort of progressing each of those relationships, then you're not going to have that panicky feeling.
Right.
And so I think that it's like Eric Worre says that professional network marketers they are professional relationship builders.
Right.
And that's what we have to remember.
Yeah.
And setting our agenda aside, because we don't know how the relationship will unfold. And it usually unfolds much more beautifully than we ever, could have conceived.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's really well said. And, with the emphasis on that professional, and, 50, as I was hearing you share that, for somebody who's brand new and feels like they don't have anybody to talk to, 50 sounds like a lot, but we show people this all the time, right?
Yes.
50 people, talk to 2 people a day, and inside of a month, you're there. And you can talk to 2 people a day, right? You can find 2 people that are online or offline that you have more than just a, hey there, a conversation, but that you actually use the coffee shop interview, which we've talked about, or other sort of principles of getting to know them, and you get 50 people into your pipeline, and somebody in that 50, several people in that 50, their time, they're going to be looking for what you have, and it takes the pressure off of having to just shove the square peg in the round hole, right?
Absolutely. And when you realize, when you take the time to be with people and you hear their story, you become invested in that person. Mm-hmm. You realize, one of the things I'm really working with people right now is on telling their story, and I'm just absolutely amazed at how connected I become to someone after hearing their story for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, taking notes on that and building that relationship, it may not be time for somebody today, but when you have that kind of relationship, they will remember you when it is their time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. And talk a little bit about that. That's an interesting sort of corollary to this conversation is how does telling your story intersect with building relationships through learning other people's stories?
Well, I think, first of all, the most valuable conversations we have is when we are listening more than we're speaking.
Yeah.
And people forget that it's not all about you.
Right.
And so first of all, and you can learn people's story. You don't have to say, oh, tell me your story. Actually, Tom says that a lot. What's your story?
Yeah.
And it works. But,
But he usually, just sorry to interrupt you, but usually, he says, tell me your story. They fumble around for a minute and he just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
So the story eventually comes out, but however you ask it, it's really that series of questions.
Yes. Yeah. And you can use whatever works for you.
Right.
Some people use, what's the funnest thing you're doing today, or what, tell me something that, on his voicemail, he says, tell me something that you don't tell anybody else, or,
which that is a crazy one.
It is.
Anyway,
And you get, but, our stories and standing in our stories it's one of the most important things we can do, because that is the foundation for our life. Right. Yeah. And like Brene Brown says, it's when you're able to stand in your story from a place of acceptance and not shame,
right,
then you can move into the future. And learning somebody else's story is a very vulnerable act.
Yeah.
To be able to to be gifted that in a way, right? And so it's our stories are the basis for our future. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing to be able to learn somebody's story.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the vulnerability that you just touched on, the way that you tell your story in a way that is, I think it can be very other serving. In one, I think you can set a tone of being willing to demonstrate some vulnerability in sharing your story that makes this person know that you're safe and that you're not, just trying to, you're not somebody that wants to keep it surface level and is just trying to look good. And
this is not your Instagram story.
Right. Yeah.
This is not like your Instagram life where it's all pretty and
Yeah. So I think that's an opportunity. And I think the second place that sharing your own story is an opportunity is, to learn how to do it in a way that is fairly succinct, that is, about modeling to them what's possible and the challenges that come along the way. So I think, you start learning the pieces of your story that you can emphasize that actually play a role in kind of drawing other people out, inspiring them, letting them know who you really are and your values. And so, part of the work that you do in your coaching is helping people to take all the stuff and, all the trauma and all the rabbit holes and go, okay, there's a place for all these that, it's not that you never talk about that part of your story, but like, here's the essence of who you are. And here's how you can share it without going down a 30-minute sort of like monologue situation, which I think we all, when we first start learning to tell our story, we all struggle with that a little bit, is how, we get going and we go, oh, and that, well, that was Thursday. And then on Friday, this happened. And it's like, oh man, here we go.
I sat with a woman the other day and it was an hour and a half of her story. And listen, I wanted to hear every detail, right? But out of that, then we succinctly got to 5 or 6 points that were sort of the building blocks of her story. And you're right. When you become more savvy in telling your story, you can tell your story to someone so that their listening as such is opened up because you're speaking to them through your story.
Correct.
So with you, with let's say the gal in the dress store, I know enough about her story and her relationship with her son to be able to speak to her in such a way through my story with my son to move and inspire her. Right. Now with somebody else, it might be completely different. Right. So that's how when you get better and more savvy with telling your story, you can speak to someone through your story.
All the different facets or dimensions. It's like little pieces of a puzzle, and you pick the ones that are going to make the most sense to share in that conversation. That's really cool. Nice. I love that. And I think it's something that we don't, I think oftentimes story gets put on, is created as almost this separate category of like, just learn how to tell your story and that's going to be the thing. But I think the intertwining of story and relationship and how your story elicits their story is something that a lot of people don't talk enough about. And it's really important. And it's actually, I think, kind of at the essence of why your story is so important in the first place, is because of how it elicits and creates this connection in this relationship. That's where you get to learn theirs in turn.
And it's an intuitive, you start to develop an intuitive skill around it. Where you really get, okay, they need to hear this.
Yeah. That's really cool. Well, Denice, thank you so much for doing this with me. And I love watching the way that you impact other people. It's such a blessing to get to have a front row seat to that. And so thank you for sharing some of that wisdom on the podcast today and just for coming and hanging out with me.
So fun, and it's my honor, and I absolutely love you so much, and I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I love you too. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a great day.